Round 16 is here in the World Cup. I'm looking forward to this. I think we're going to see some fantastic games. There's some massive clashes here early on in the tournament, maybe earlier on than what we would have seen some of these matches in the if it wasn't for the new format. We've obviously had the round of 32. The tournament's come alive here over the last week. I thought the group stages were good. There were some upsets, there were some surprises, good games overall, but I think this week has been fantastic. There's been incredible games every day and incredible story every night of the week that's just gone by in the World Cup. The round of 32 games, they have been absolutely fantastic. There's been, goals, there's been comebacks, there's been, story in every game. A few controversial decisions in a World Cup, but I think you have to overlook that to a certain extent. As frustrating as some of the inconsistency is, I think the games have been quality. There's been quality football on show. Teams really going for it. There's always controversy surrounding World Cups, it seems, nowadays, but even more so with this one. There was a concern around the quality of games that we might see, and I don't think that will be the case. As in, I don't think that's the case. I mean, the games we've seen are fantastic, and looking at the lineup we've got for the next round, the round 16, that doesn't look like it's going to slow down at all. It's been fantastic, I have to say. The previous week, really enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to what the round of 16 is going to bring, which starts today. So that's what I'm going to be discussing here. My round of 16 predictions, of course. We've got 8 games left. The tournament is getting serious now. Every game, the loser goes out. So it's do or die. Extra time, penalties. I reckon we've already seen a bit of that already. I think we could see some more of that in some of these games coming up. We've got some incredibly close games, some big hitters, some big teams going to be going out, and we're no doubt going to see some big performances from some of the teams that go through as well. So starting with the first game, which is Morocco against Canada. Now this is an exciting game. I think this is going to be a good game. I think Canada in that first game, that last game, they didn't. South Africa, they did keep some possession, maybe more than I think people thought they would. But overall, Canada, were the better side. They got into some good positions and didn't really make the most of their chances, which they'll need to do against defence like Morocco's. But they did eventually get a goal. They did eventually get a clean sheet, go through with a 1-0 win. I think Jesse Marsch, I never really rated him in the Premier League, but I think, in the Canada manager job, I think he's done a good job. I think he seems to suit the role quite well. I think some of the criticism of him as being unfair and unnecessary. I think, Canada, it's their first ever World Cup win. That's the furthest they've ever got. Whatever happens now, they've had a successful tournament. They've gotten, second place in the group. That was what they were going for. That's what they were aiming for. If they get through against South Africa, get to the round of 16. And they've got a game here. Both of these two on the day, I think, are capable of beating each other on any given day. I think Morocco are definitely the favourites on paper, but I feel like Canada do have another performance in them. I wouldn't be surprised if they did get the result here, and I wouldn't be surprised if this was an extra time. Really, to be honest, Canada do seem to have something about them this tournament, but I really do rate Morocco. Morocco are really establishing themselves now as a top team, as a big team, a team that always performs at this level. So a quarter-final finish for one of the, getting to the quarter-finals for either of these two would be massive. So I think we could see a game both teams really up for it, both teams really go for it. Between these two, Morocco so far, there's a better side against Brazil. They got past Scotland and Haiti. They got past Scotland easily. 1-0 win, could have had more, and beat Haiti when they didn't need the win to get out the group in the end. They were really good there as well. So, and then in that last round against the Dutch, they dominated large parts of the game. There's the better team in most of the game, to be honest. But then when it got to extra time and penalties, they stepped up then as well. I mean, even when they went behind on the counter, he was able to step up, get the equaliser, and then ultimately get the win on penalties. And they do seem to have a decent record on penalties. They do seem to be improving a lot in attacking areas as well. I really rate Morocco. I really do think they could still have a real run in this competition. So for a prediction, I think in terms of the actual game itself, I think Jesse Marsch is thorough. I think he'll look at the ways that you can hurt Morocco, because there's ways you can get them. The Dutch hit them on the break. But I think overall it's going to be a really close game. But I'm going for a 2-1 Morocco win. I think they're going to have a bit too much, and I think they're going to get through to the quarter-final there. The second game, though, we see France taking on Paraguay. Now, France have been probably, you could argue, the best performing side so far. Definitely the best attack in the tournament. Even the options they have to bring off the bench are excellent. The defence hasn't been tested, he's yet to have his biggest of tests, but overall there's been nothing I would say has been concerning there either. Midfield is strong. and particularly the attack is where I think you really got to look at. And you know, as a team of winners, players like have played together for their clubs as well. With players like Mbappe, who are in the race for the Golden Boot, Dembele's in that conversation as well. But players like someone like Mbappe always is there for them at the World Cup, top. One of the best, in the conversation among like the best international players of all time. I think it has to be said, like certain players do find another level for their country. Mbappe is one of those players. Deschamps, excellent manager, a team of winners, a team of champions, a team that knows how to do it, has been there and done it, and actually look the best they've played in a while. But I do think Paraguay are much better defensively than Sweden, so I think they'll be able to hold them a bit more and give them a bit more of a challenge in that regard, because Sweden's defence was so poor that it didn't really give their quality attackers enough of a chance. Paraguay, fairly clinical. The first game defended really badly, but since then they've been really organised at the back. Got the 1-0 against Turkey, 0-0 against Australia, coming through in the group stage. After that, they drew with Germany. They were 1-1 there, first ever knockout game, beating them in penalties against Germany, which was historic. And they were good defensively there, fairly clinical. Which they'll need to be if they get any looking against France. I just think, because I like Paraguay, I rate Paraguay, I think they've been one of the stories of the tournament, but I do feel like France, when it comes to it, are just going to have too much. France are one of those teams, and I say the same about Spain actually, they're teams that I can't see being on the wrong end of of an upset in this tournament. I just can't see it. So I'm going for a 2-0 France win there, and I think they get through, which will set up a repeat of the last World Cup semi-final, Morocco in the quarter-final, Morocco versus France quarter-final. Now we'll go to the other side of the bracket for the next set of games now, where we see Mexico. What's first one? No, it's Brazil. Norway's first actually. So we'll do that. It's been a bit of confusion actually whether the England games move back to what in our time is 7 PM, which would be ideal, as it's supposed to be 1 in the morning. Not because of that reason, but because FIFA, there's a storm on the horizon in Mexico City, which could mean it gets moved back to what would be 7 PM in our time to avoid the worst of the storm. I'm not sure what's going to happen there, but moving the game last minute, especially as Mexico have been based in Mexico the whole time, it could cause some problems, but we'll see how it goes. It's never really doesn't really happen. It'll be a big decision. We'll see what happens with that. But we'll start with Brazil against Norway. Now, if England are to make the quarterfinals, the winner of this game is our opponent in that game. Now, Brazil didn't convince before the tournament. I'm definitely more convinced by them now than I was before the tournament, and more and more as it's gone on, more and more they look like a potential winner. Through the group stage, okay, the first game they maybe got away with the draw against Morocco, but since then they battered Haiti and Scotland. Got the games won within the first 40 minutes really, very, very comfortable in both those games. But coming out of the group stage where they got the real test, Japan put themselves in the lead. They not a good first half, but the second half was excellent. The squad selection got a lot of criticism from myself included, but Ancelotti's shown that he can utilise options off the bench. The squad they've brought can do the job in that second half. Subs are made at half time, and it turns out to be crucial because they're able to go on and turn the game round and get themselves a very, very good comeback there, and very, very dominant second half in the end from Brazil in that game. Whereas Norway, as well, they were good in the group stages. They lost to France, but they won the 2 that you would expect them to win. Got out of the group second place. Got up against Ivory Coast, and what a game that was against Ivory Coast. They're both involved in great games, these two. There's a lot of attacking quality on the pitch here. Haaland's in that Golden Boot race as well. Vinicius Junior not far behind as well with his 4 goals. These players are standing out for them, and the big players seem to be turning up. And Brazil, they are starting to really look like they're starting to click now. And now I could see them doing it now. Whereas before, up to this point, I've always said, no, I don't think they will have enough to win this World Cup. Now all of a sudden they're looking like they could. There's no reason why not, and we could potentially, if they do get beyond this game, we could potentially see some massive games. But there's potential for Brazil-England quarter-final, there's potential for Brazil-Argentina semi-final. We won't get too ahead of ourselves, but I think from a mutual perspective, people will be getting very excited about the prospect of that. But Ancelotti is one of the best in the business, so in terms of this game, I think it could be really high scoring. I think it could be very entertaining. I think both of these two have shown that they do concede goals at times, and you can get at them, because they both conceded a goal in that last round with their 2-1 wins. Norway left it late to win it. Ivory Coast pushed them all the way in a really, really good games. But both of them have got a lot of goals in them as well. They've proven that so far in this tournament. So I think we're going to see a really, really exciting game. I really like Norway. I think they've been great this tournament. Fans have been fantastic. I think they've been I pulled them out as one of the surprise teams at the start. I think they've to a point. I think they've lived up to that sort of that hype. I I think it's going to be a great game. I just think Brazil find a way again. 3-2 to Brazil. Might not have said that before if you'd asked me earlier in the tournament, but I was really, really impressed with that second half against Japan, as something just looks like it's starting to click for them now. So 3-2 Brazil, they get through to the quarterfinals. Who will they play in my quarterfinal bracket though? Let's find out. Mexico versus England in Mexico City. Now, whatever time this game kicks off, this is going to be a fantastic occasion. It's a really, from an England perspective, this is a very, very daunting prospect, going to Mexico City where there's altitude. Mexico have got such a good record at Azteca. Then you've got the fact they've not conceded a goal so far in this tournament, the fact they're clinical in front of goal. Quinones, Jimenez seems to be playing really well. They're strong in all areas. They've got a good squad in terms of, like, there does seem to be a decent sort of mixture of sort of youth and experience in there. There seems to be good options off the bench coming every game. No goal conceded so far. They've made every game look easy. Really, really impressive them. This is a big step up for them from what they've faced so far, but you could say the exact same for England. England were fantastic in that first game against Croatia, against the top side. Since then though, the Ghana game was poor, okay. Panama took us a while to get going, but we did in the end. And DR Congo, what a test that was. But DR Congo, I think, were one of those teams that were one of the surprise teams of the tournament that were a lot better than people expected. So that really was nervy, that really was hard work. There was a time where we were staring down a barrel in that game, but we picked ourselves up and we found a way through, and I think that's what matters in tournament football. We just have to get through. Yeah, okay, the level needs to rise from an England perspective, of course, but we have grown into tournaments before, and although we might not have all the options off the bench that we would have liked if the squad selection was a bit better, what we do have is an experienced team that knows how to navigate tournaments, that knows how to get through these type of games. And if it is to go the distance, we seem to have sorted our penalty shootout record out. It seems to be a lot better in recent years. 5 out of 5 in the last shootout in the Euros a couple of summers ago. So for a prediction here, I think it's going to be a really, really close game. I think it could go either way. If I wasn't English, maybe I'd be going the other way on this prediction here. I think it's so hard to separate. It's, to be honest, it's a flip of a coin. On paper, it's a very different discussion, because I think Mexico have impressed so much this tournament. They're in such a good form at the moment, and you look at all the sort of other factors as well, the environmental factors, the stadium, the atmosphere, the weather, all of that stuff that could affect England. 1-1 is going to be my prediction for 90 minutes. I think we go all the way to penalties, and I think because of our recent record, I'm going to go for England on penalties, and that's a massive shout, but I've just got a feeling that might be how this game plays out. So if I'm right, we'll see a Brazil-England quarter-final, and what a game that'll be. Now let's continue back to the other side of the bracket now. We see United States against Belgium. Yeah, okay, let's do United States against Belgium, because United States have been one of the stories of the tournament. Fantastic in the first 2 group stage games. It made it look easy against Paraguay and Australia, then didn't need to win that last game, rested players. Very convincing against Bosnia as well, bearing in mind they had goals chalked off with their 10 men for a lot of the game. I thought they were strong in that game and strong in front of goal again. It's just whether or not without Balogun is going to be, Balogun sending off, they'll be without him in this game. That's going to be the concern. Can they still make the quarterfinals? They've got a lot of creative players still, a lot of goals in their team still. Will those players still be able to do the job without Balogun in the team? That's the question, I think, and that could be the deciding factor in this game. Belgium is so hard to call. Okay, the first 2 group stage games underwhelming in the draws. Turned up against New Zealand, but then against Senegal they were didn't start playing until the 85th minute. Were 2-0 down, looked like they were going out, and then all of a sudden they just seemed to find form from somewhere in the last 5 minutes. Got themselves back into the game. Played a really good last 5 minutes in stoppage time, fantastic extra time where they got the winner. So really, really weird. You just don't know what to expect from Belgium. Don't know whether they're going to turn up or not. What I will say is there does seem to be something about them. They do seem to just be finding a way. Even if they've got on a way a bit so far, they just seem to be able to find a way to get through. And the longer you go in deeper into the tournament, if you have a way of playing, you can just find a way sometimes. And I think against the US, particularly without the US main goal scorer, I think that's going to be a really, really tough game to call. And it's a game that on the day could go either way. But as for a prediction, I'm going to stick with what I think I originally would have said. I'm going for 1-1, and I think I'm going to go for the US to make use of the home advantage in extra time, and I think they'll get a 2-1 win after extra time. So I'm going for the US to get through. Going to be a very, very hard game to call though. Spain against Portugal now. If I'm right and the US go through, the winners of this game will play them in the quarter-final. Spain and Portugal. This could have been the final before the tournament. I mean, Portugal, they're one of those teams like England that are always going to get criticism when they underperform. Before the tournament, they were hyped up by myself included. Look at the midfield one of the best in the tournament, you know, on paper, and they've got a good defence, good goalkeeper, a lot of creative players. The question was always going to be about, there's always question marks around Martinez, and the question would also always be, would Ronaldo be able to keep up with the pace of the wingers? Would Ronaldo be able to cope with the physicality at his age? And you know, there was a lot of doubts after that, after the first game against DR Congo, but they were really poor. Congo, they've turned out to be a decent side though. You know, 5-0 against Uzbekistan was one thing, and then, you know, the 0-0 against Colombia, where they didn't, again, they lacked cutting edge, and they were pushed to the limit against Croatia. What a game that was, one of the stories of the tournament so far. Slightly better than them in the first half, very, very tight though. Second half was 50-50 on a knife edge, could have gone either way. The game was end to end. Croatia taking the lead, Portugal hitting back but it getting chalked off, but they didn't get the penalty. Croatia then have another goal chalked off. Portugal then score in the final minute, Gonzalo Ramos, and that's a major talking point. Should he start? The way they play, it does seem like it's one or the other with him and Ronaldo, and he made a real case for him starting there. I know Ronaldo stepped up to a point in that game, but Ramos was the one who got the goal to put them through, and then Croatia of course had another goal chalked off, and it was a game that was so close. It really could have gone either way. And one thing's for certain, if Portugal are going to beat Spain, a team that's not conceded the goal yet, we're going to need to see the best performance we have seen from them in this tournament so far. We know we've got it in them, we know how good they are. Yeah, the gap, you know, Portugal and Spain, you know, the head-to-head record obviously favours Spain, but in recent years that gap's lessened, and you think, you know, they've proven how good of a game this could be if both teams show up and play to their best, to the max of their ability. We know how good it could be. Yeah, the Nations League last year, it was a draw that went all the way to penalties. Portugal winning. Could we see something like that here? You never know. Portugal decide to turn up on the day. They've got the ability, they've got the talent, they've got the quality, and they do have the goals in them when they're at the best. We know that, but the Ronaldo factor is always going to be a thing. How will he cope against a team like Spain that's so fast-paced? That's going to be a worry. Will they start him in this game? I imagine they will, just because of he's Ronaldo and they just seem to start him every game. But Ramos did come on a bit earlier for someone else, then Ronaldo come off a bit later, and they did play together for a while, but that did seem like more of a thing they did just in that game. I don't see them both playing together. I think it is going to have to be a case of one or the other. Players like Leao have impressed this tournament though. They've certainly got the creativity in them. Let's talk about, so we don't know about, it's just a matter of Portugal, do they turn up, and if they do, will it be enough against one of the most well-drilled teams in the tournament? So I think it's about time we talk about Spain. Outside of along with France, I think you could argue Spain have been the best performing team so far, especially defensively. Not yet conceded the goal. After last night's result, Cape Verde 0-0 is not looking too bad now of a result, but since then they've really stepped up. 4-0 against Saudi, 1-0 against Uruguay, 3-0 against Austria. No one seems to be able to play against them, and they look like France, they seem like one of the only teams that's like, I just can't see how they're going to be on the wrong end of like an upset. But they're playing again in a big game here, so it's sort of like a derby between the nations. They're right next to each other. There's a rivalry. It's you know, if they do both turn up, then this really could be a great game. It could be one of the best games of the tournament. I think, you know, Spain though, defensively they've been so good so far, and they've been so efficient in the attack. The way they move the ball is so great to watch. France have been the best team in terms of the attack. In terms of the defence, Spain have probably been the best, but there's nothing really in it. Those two are the two that, and they're on the same side of the bracket, and there's a very good chance, I think, the way it's shaping up, definitely the favourites for a France-Spain semi-final, and that would be a flip of a coin. That would be such a quality game, and you could argue these two are the two favourites at this moment. They have just been absolutely fantastic, and, you know, Cape Verde's results since that Spain game have proven that wasn't really a blip. That was actually, like, Cape Verde are actually a decent side, and Spain are still the top team everyone thought they would be, bearing in mind they played the sort of bit of a second string attack in that game as well. I think you have to go from what we've seen so far. I think you have to sort of go based off of, I know, you know, Portugal, at the end of the day, they got through, they found a way, like England, but I think Spain, you know, the performances we've seen so far don't lie, how good they've been, how efficient they've been. I think it's going to be a very good game. I think it's going to be a very close game. On the day, anything can happen. But I think I'm going to have to go for a 2-1 Spain win based on what I've seen so far in this tournament. Not writing Portugal off, but I just think there's something about Spain at this moment. They've got that winning know-how, and they've got the experience now with winning the Euros, and I just think when it comes to it, I have to pick a winner here. I think I'm going to have to go for Spain. And I see a 2-1 win, but a very good game, and a very eventful game that they'll know there'll be a lot of talking points in for sure. So I'm going for Spain to get through, set up a quarter-final with my predictions with the United States of America. The last two games now on the side of the England side of the bracket, on our side of the bracket, Argentina are playing Egypt. Egypt have been impressive so far. They've been one of the sort of teams that I think have maybe been a bit better than people expected. They've got a lot of good players in that team. We see them get out of the group stage, unlucky not to top that group stage with 2 draws and a very good win over New Zealand, their first ever World Cup win. It's the furthest they've ever got. You know, this is probably Salah's last tournament as well, so there's a real story there. But we've seen a lot of other players, you know, really step up and make a name for themselves, and I think they're a very, very good side. And if there's playing someone that wasn't as quite as strong as Argentina, maybe could we see them going through. But I've got a separate video that's gone up. Well, I've already spoke about Argentina's game last night, where we've seen that there is an element of vulnerability there that we didn't see in the group stages. Cape Verde. And I've, you know, nothing but praise for them. Absolutely incredible last night, and I've got a whole video where I cover that, all the games last night, where I talk a lot about Cape Verde and that game. But talk about Argentina for this prediction. I mean, they're, you know, that game, you know, we've seen them push to extra time, and they've got a recent good record on that. They seem to always find a way through, but you do wonder, you know, could they be found out? Maybe they're not quite as efficient as the Spain and France. Maybe they do rely on the individual talent a lot more, but they're so key in playing to Messi's strengths, and I think, you know, they're so good at that. And I think, you know, what could be key is the link-up play we see with him and Martinez. We've got creative midfielders there as well. I think defensively, I think they actually look fairly, you know, most of the time they're solid. And, you know, a team of winners, team that know how to do it. You know, they've been there, done it. They've back-to-back Copa Americas, the current champions. Egypt, though, you know, excellent record under this current manager, and they are really a team on the rise. Got through to the next game as well on the penalties against Australia. Very good first off they played there. Didn't see as much of them in the second half where Australia come back into it, but they've shown they can manage extra time, and they've shown they can manage penalties and the pressure that comes with. So I think I'll be really impressed with them, and if they go out here, I can say hats off to them, fantastic tournament. But Argentina here will need to get the job done. You know, they're one of the favourites on this side of the bracket to get there. And you look at it and you think, well, like, you know, Cape Verde, well, pushed them all the way. And could Egypt do the same? We never know. We've seen that maybe Argentina can be got at more than maybe teams thought they would, because the group stage they didn't put a foot wrong and they eased past Austria and Algeria. You know, these teams that, and you know that. They made those teams look really poor, to be honest, and then, you know, beat Jordan as well. It was a bit of a nothing game because one was already won the group, one was already out, and well, the game last night we saw maybe a slightly different side to them, and maybe it's not going to be quite as smooth as we thought. But it does seem to be a thing with Argentina, you know, like this real story around could they go back to back, and it was very much looking like it could we see a France-Argentina repeat in the final. I still think it's a strong possibility because I think Argentina, you know, there's even if they don't play at their best every game, we know there's an efficiency about them we saw in the last World Cup and in the Copa America as well, to be fair, 2 years ago. But as my prediction against Egypt, I think we're going to see a close game and a good game, because I think Egypt's capable of that. Overall, for a prediction though, I think it'll be close for a while. I'm going for a 3-1 Argentina win. I think the third goal comes quite late. I think Egypt make things tricky for them, and it's not going to be straightforward for Argentina here. Finally now, to decide Argentina's quarter-final opponent, Colombia take on Switzerland. Looking forward to this game. I think this game's going under the radar a bit. I think this is going to be a really exciting game. I really like both of these sides, and I think they're both, you know, Switzerland really experienced now. Every time they've improved in the tournaments, both of these two top the group on 7 points. Both of them are really good in the way they play, and I think they're good at similar things. I think both of them are organised and defensively are really good, and I think both of them are pretty clinical as well in front of goal. Switzerland not so much in that first game, but since then they've really livened up in front of goal in the second two group stage games, getting through, and then, you know, beating Algeria quite easily as well, winning 2-0, being clinical in front of goal, not really giving them a look in. Similar things you can say about Colombia as well. Ghana maybe didn't turn up as much as people hoped they would, but Colombia, you know, if you score, I think if Colombia score first against you, I think you might be in trouble, because they seem to be well organised, they seem to be good defensively. Got themselves 1-0 up in that game, and then Ghana couldn't get it back from there, and then they did the similar thing to DR Congo in that second group stage game, but it was a bit, the goal come later on, and if they do seem to have a knack at that. 0-0 against Portugal as well. First game, the only goal they've conceded, the only game they conceded the goal in against Uzbekistan, which they hit back almost instantly in. That was a 3-1 win as well, so they've got a lot of quality as well. So I think we could see a very good performance from them as well, I'm pretty sure. I really do like both teams. I think both teams will look at that side of the bracket that they're on and think we've got a chance here to get there, to get all the way. Switzerland, I still think one day we're going to see a massive run in the tournament from them that maybe it's outweighed what we've seen from them so far. If this game does go the distance, both of them have got sort of mixed record on penalties and extra time, some good, some bad for both teams. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes, and I think it could be really tight on the day. You know, Switzerland and Colombia, they're both teams that I think that just don't give up, and we're seeing a lot of that in tournaments, teams just not giving up, and I think this could be a really exciting game based on on that, and I think, you know, both of them sort of meet the match here a bit. Both teams are organising good defensively, but both teams that, you know, when they do create the chances, will take them as well. And we know Colombia have got, you know, good wide men as well, and particularly Luis Diaz. They're going to create those chances as well, and they seem to be pretty good at taking the chance when it does come. I mean, it's going to be close. I think Switzerland, we know Colombia's improvement over the last few years has been huge, but I think Switzerland, we've known for a while that they're experienced now and that they're a team that's sort of really established now. They always are there or thereabouts in the tournaments now. I think Colombia are in a really good place at the moment though, and I think it's a really, really hard game to call, and I actually think this could be one of the games of the round, and it was actually one of the hardest ones for me to predict this round. But as a prediction, I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw, goes to extra time, and I think I'm actually going to go for a Colombia on penalties. That's what I've got a feeling is going to happen. So Colombia get through to set up an incredible looking quarter-final with Argentina, which would be fantastic. So if I'm right with my quarter-final, with my round 16 predictions, what the quarter-finals would look like is on one side of the bracket we would see a clash between Morocco and France. Winners of that will go up against United States and Spain. So could we see that France-Spain semi-final? I definitely think that's what the odds will suggest at the moment, but there has been twists in this tournament. The data doesn't always go the way doesn't always mean that's definitely how it's going to go. Other side of the bracket though, where we are, so I had an England-Brazil quarter-final, and I had an Argentina-Colombia semi-final with the winners playing each other. Could we see Argentina-England? Could we see Argentina-Brazil? It's going to be, or even Colombia would be fantastic as well. I mean, it's going to be some fantastic games whatever happens. I'm looking forward to this. Let me know your thoughts and your predictions for these games that are coming up over the next week, and I hope everyone enjoys the game. And as for England perspective, let's hope we can get the job done against Mexico tomorrow. It's going to be a tough old game, but I'm ready for it. I'm looking forward to it, and yeah, hopefully this will be we can step up